Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you on this Friday. Got a lot to talk about, man. It is Super Bowl weekend. Got a great show in store for you. Batting in the leadoff position, Jerry Kerby out of Clarksville, Tennessee. NFL human computer chip, Matt Dean over at Rhodes College in Memphis. One of our ADs and coach. I love always getting his great insight. And we'll be in the second segment, Jason Caldwell inside the Auburn Tigers. Alabama Sports Writer of the Year. We'll check in what's going on down there on the plains. A lot, if you're keeping up. Hugh Freeze, Bruce Pearl, bringing in some big time talent. But right now, I want to talk about Auburn's small guards. That ain't helping them. Top of hour number 2, Bo Carter from the Big 12 office. Now the National Football Foundation and Baseball Writers of America will join us. And in the William Halliday, one of our intern here, a young sports writer for in school, now young journalist at Auburn, writing for the Auburn Plainsman, went to MUS. Bubba Halliday's son. I've known Bubba since kindergarten. He's going to be on here with us. And also Norman Jetmanson. He and David Cruz produced an award-winning documentary that's now on in 24 states, public TV, Sewanee 1899 Unrivaled. I went to a premiere showing last night at MUS at Hyde Chapel. It is spectacular. That's the first time I'd seen it on the big screen. And it just really chronicles the history of college football, the kind of people that paved the way for where we are today. It's just an incredible game. And hey, let's do everything we can to make college sports better and more like college sports have always been, with, adjustments, making it better. And then let the NFL continue to be the great product that it is. Hey, we're here 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, www.sidelines.live. You can sync us live anywhere, wherever you are. Just remember that, okay? If you miss us, you're also on 680thefan.com, the podcast park in Atlanta. Sports Radio, FM 104.7, Cookeville, Tennessee, up on the Cumberland Plateau, Caney Fork River. Great trout fishing up there. And Kicks 96.3, Alexander City, Lake Martin. We want to grow this Sidelines Southern Sports Network to be really, really big. Like Ed Sullivan would say, really big show today. We want to make it that way. So let's get talking sports right now. Let's bring on Jerry Kerby, Matt Dean. Gentlemen, Super Bowl weekend. Had Wesley Britt on the show yesterday. I don't know if y'all get a chance to see it. Wesley, I know when he played at Alabama, was all SEC lineman, drafted by the Chargers, Jerry, then played 4 years with the Patriots. At 6'8", 349 pounds, he only looks like he doesn't weigh more than 250. Guy's an incredible athlete. He said, when we played in the Super Bowl in 2007, I was on that team. We were 18-0. And then Tyree makes that great, catch on the helmet. And the Dolphins, and we're reminded every year by Mercury Morris that they are the last undefeated team in the NFL and the only one. So there's no undefeated team this year, but let's get started with your take, Jerry, and then Matt, you be ready to come on in here about Eagles and Chiefs this Sunday on Super Bowl Sunday, the big one. Jerry, I want you to give me
Good morning, guys.
Hey, Jerry, what?
I want to kind of save that. I kind of want to say that at the end, my pick. But I just want to say that.
Yeah.
I just want to say that there will be no undefeated teams ever. Miami Dolphins will be the only undefeated team. The NFL is just too good to steamroll through the whole entire league. But I just want to say that I just want to break down the Chiefs and the Eagles game. Just want to say that both offenses are very similar. The biggest concern for the Chiefs are they have the worst red zone defense, 30th and opponent red zone touchdown scoring percentage. But they held their own against the Bengals. That's what won them the game. So I would most likely lean the reason why if the Chiefs do win, is their defensive line. Because the defensive coordinator is so aggressive. He will zero blitz, and he will come up with some blitz packages that will, Jalen Hurts. And also Chris Jones is going to be playing in the A-gap where that's going to shut down the Eagles' running game. So I would keep that in mind too. And the Chiefs also getting Clyde Edwards-Helaire back, which that is big because the Chiefs receivers are so banged up. I have no idea what the injury report is right now, but you could be seeing Jared McKinnon and Pacheco in the slots if the receivers, if Schuster and Scantling are not healthy. Okay. And then they could put Edwards-Helaire at the running back position. So, and then another thing, the Eagles made history as well. They were the only 4 teams before the Eagles to win the divisional round and the conference championship game by 21 or more points. It was the 78 Steelers, the 85 Bears, the 88 49ers, and the 89 49ers. Those are the 4 best top 10 teams in NFL history. And then also the Eagles played the easiest schedule in the NFL. So, and then, my prediction, this game, I've been breaking it down for the whole almost 2 weeks now and scripting it. And I feel like this game is just like the Super Bowl 49 where the Patriots beat the Seattle 28-24. And I don't think it's going to be that interception. So, and then another thing to also look at, first-time head coach quarterback combos. This is the 6th time in the last 6 years that this is going to happen, and the record is 1-4 because you had Burrow, Taylor last year, then you had Shannon and Jimmy G, McVay and Goff, and Quinn and Ryan. The only winner out of the 5 is Peterson and Foles. One. And then and then the other side, the other head coach quarterback, they weren't making the first time appearance. So, and another thing too is Nick Sirianni, the head coach of the Eagles, he makes better game adjustments than the Chiefs do. So keep that in mind. And the teams that wear white jerseys are 36-20, and the Chiefs are wearing white, so that's a good sign. And KC's O-line is not a slouch. So right there, that's it. And I got Chiefs winning 33-30.
Holy cow, Jerry, that is amazing. Matt, chime in. I feel like I'm going up against the dream team in the courtroom.
Well, Jerry, I can't argue with all those statistics because I too, I'll start backwards. I have the Chiefs slightly winning this game. I have some sentiment. When I was coaching basketball, one of my players actually is married to the kicker of the Chiefs, Harrison Butker. We were at their wedding. Fine young man, was a kicker for Georgia Tech, was in our gym a lot watching his future wife play. One of the things I thought was interesting this week, the last 2 weeks I've seen on television, Jerry, I think both teams have scored 546 points. I mean, they're, like you said, they're really – I think it's an even matchup. And when it comes down to an even matchup, I think turnovers matter. In the AFC Championship game, even though Patrick was still banged up, they're up 20-13, and he's looking to throw a quick screen. That ball slips out of his hand. The Bengals get the fumble. They come back and tie it. It almost really haunted them. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs as well. but probably for different reasons. I think Andy Reid is the X factor. I think Andy Reid is one of the best football coaches in the history of our game. I think he'll have a great plan. I do like your analogy with Chris Jones. I'm also a big Frank Clark fan for the Chiefs. I think their defensive line will be able to slow down a little bit the running game. But the weapon that's always an X factor, when you lose Tyreek Hill and you still have the most yards in all of football, Travis Kelce is really, really hard to stop. Especially, you talk about red zone, Travis Kelce's huge in the red zone. Jalen Hurts has had a wonderful year, an MVP type year. The addition of A.J. Browne has been huge for that offense. I love Hassan Reddick, who I think leads the league in sacks. One of the most even games we've ever seen, going back to your analogy with Seattle and New England. And Jerry, Seattle, if they hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch, they probably win that game. I'm going to go Chiefs 28, Eagles 27.
Wow. You know, Jerry, along the lines of what Matt just said, Andy Reid, of course, he had a lot of success with the Eagles. And then, but the Super Bowl always was that elusive prize, and he's won that. Kansas City. What is this? The Hunt family, you know. And I was listening this morning on the way to work. The Hunt family's royalty in the NFL. Everybody knows that. And you talk about teams wearing white jerseys are 36-20 in the Super Bowl. One of the big factors, and you mentioned this, is Clyde Edward-Helaire.
Yeah.
Kid out of Baton Rouge who played at LSU. He's 5'7", but he plays like he's 6'2", 230 pounds. I think that's important. But as a team, I think the Eagles are a better running team. And as a running quarterback, what do you think? Mahomes, Hurts? I think Hurts is a stronger runner. Everybody's banged up at this time of year. Who do you give the edge to?
I give the edge to the Chiefs because, like I said, they've been here before. It starts at preparation. Like, you know, the Eagles is the first time they've been here, so they gotta think about getting their tickets to their families and their, you know, stuff like that, and where they're going to eat. And, you know, I think that's a big distraction. And also schedule, you know, practice and, you know, stuff like that. Kansas City's already been here, so they already know. So there's really no distraction. And when to take naps, you know, and how do you, the biggest thing is, game day, how much energy are you going to burn? You know what I'm saying? The Chiefs already been there, so they already know. It's stuff like that. I mean, little stuff like that. And also, Matt, I forgot to mention, Travis Kelce is going to have a big game. So if you're a bettor, I would bet all the overs on Travis Kelce. He's going to have a massive game. And also Andy Reid's bye week record as well. That's another thing I did not say either. Mahomes has only lost one game during coming off a bye week, and of course that was against Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Wow, that is that Matt. I'll tell you what else. Along the lines of what Jerry just said, when Wesley Britt was on, he talked about being in the Super Bowl, and he said it's a 2-week deal. I mean, you were just every day, distractions everywhere. He said Jay Leno was interviewing the players. He said, you name it, they're out there. So those distractions, you've got to be very myopic. I wouldn't say there's no distractions, but most of these Chiefs players have been to the Super Bowl. But for the guys, it's the first time ever. They're going to lean on those older guys, aren't they?
They are. And Jerry, it was interesting. You brought up you kind of like the margins coming into this game with how, and you can say the San Francisco game, it helped with the injuries at quarterback. Playing with a third string quarterback made it a lot. I mean, the game was out of hand before that, obviously, but you know, they won 38-7, I believe, against the Giants, maybe 31-7, 34-7. I'm not sure, Jerry, but I think it's helped the Chiefs a little bit. they had two tough games. I mean, even the Jacksonville game was 27-20. They had to play in the fourth quarter. And I do think the extra week of practice continues, or extra week of rest, helps Mahomes with that ankle injury too, right? So, I mean, as marvelous as he played against the Bengals, and you can make an argument that the Bengals, a lot of people thought the Bengals were the best team in the league. And right now with an extra week, but Rob, I'm just going to be honest with you, Philadelphia's really, really good. I mean, Jalen Hurts has had a terrific year. If he doesn't hurt his shoulder in the Chicago Bears game, he probably plays every other game and may even have won the MVP. I know Mahomes had a spectacular year. That's how good a year Jalen Hurts had. I do think that the Eagles have a better running game. Mike Sanders. Also, you have some other factors. You get Boston Scott out there. Kenny Gainwell, a former Memphis tailback. Really, I mean, their combination. But I think the Hilaire factor, Jerry, I didn't realize he was back for this game. I think that's a big plus. One of the most evenly matched games we've ever seen. But, I do think being there before and handling the media obviously is a big advantage. And even the whole thing about the tickets, Jerry, I thought an interesting thing about how classy the Hunt family is. They were flying 3 big planes in with over 1,000 employees or something. So family, friends, staffers that couldn't make the game in COVID year when they lost to the Buccaneers. So I'm excited trying to figure out my food for Sunday.
Matt, hold that thought. You're making me hungry. Now you're going to start talking about what we're eating on the Super Bowl. Jerry Kerby, Matt Dean, Rob Browne, Super Bowl Friday weekend right after this. All right, Rob Browne back here with you. Want to say something about one of our new sponsors, Rumble Boxing Gym /Midtown Memphis, rumbleboxinggym.com /Midtown Memphis. And Camp Lee, a friend of mine, is opening up 3 of these gyms, and the first one will be opened late March, early April, as expected open date at the intersection of Union and McLean, Midtown Memphis. Really cool setup. You'll see it when you go by there. It is big windows. It's beautiful. It's spectacular looking facility. Brand new building. 25 weight benches with all the weight sets. In the middle, group training. And on the other side, 25 punching bags, which we all need when we're watching our favorite teams play. It's good therapy. And there'll be 45-minute intense workouts. You can join now. There are special discounted rates for the original members, but it's rumbleboxinggym.com /Midtown Memphis. I am really excited about this stuff. Exercise is just, you got to do it. You got to be active, makes your brain work. So sign up now. Gentlemen, you go back to both of y'all, or Matt, you were on a roll before the break. At Clyde Edward-Helaire, he also made one of the biggest plays in LSU's run to the national championship in 2019 when he just ran through people in the Alabama game on the goal line for a touchdown, and he's 5'7". Another Baton Rouge kid that happened to know Lester Miles, one of his kids in school, and they encouraged him to give it a try at LSU, and now he's in the NFL. So, Matt, roll on, and then we'll go back over to Jerry Kerby as we talk more Super Bowl strategy.
No, his toughness is something that's been missing. Though I think Jerry, you touched on the other running back, Pacheco. Maybe I mispronounced his name, but he's had a terrific year. Played collegiately at Rutgers, and really a speed threat. So it's just, I mean, you look at the depth, the Eagles running back position, the Chiefs getting Hilaire back, their offensive numbers this year without Tyreek Hill, the Travis Kelce factor. Then on the Eagles side, what A.J. Browne has meant to that offense. Let's not forget Dallas Goedert. He's a really nice tight end for the Eagles as well. I mean, he's kind of like a different version of Travis Kelce. And can the Chiefs do a good job on the RPOs? Because if Jalen Hurts rushes, Jerry, I think if he gets over that 75-yard mark, that could change the whole game. And you hit it on the head. Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator, he takes a lot of chances. You mentioned zero blitzes. It's a big risk reward, and the Eagles are not afraid to throw the ball downfield. So my safest bet, I think, is the over. Like you said, Jerry, you said a total of 63. I don't know what the over is, Rob. Not that we're trying to figure that out right now. But
oh, yes, we are. Don't deny it.
Maybe we are.
We are.
But there's going to be a lot of points scored in this football game.
Yeah.
A lot of points.
Yeah. Jerry, Sunday, I tell you one thing, guys, the NFL Network has become just go-to TV for me. Jerry, you watch much of that?
Oh, yes. That's actually the channel I watch my pregame. It's my legends, man. Michael Irvin, Kurt Warner, Rich Eisen, which I grew up watching SportsCenter, which I don't watch anymore. And and the two ladies on there are really good as well. So
they are.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of fun with it. And and you know what? This Super Bowl, guys, like I said, when talking to Wesley Britt and we had Ben Troop on earlier in the week, these guys all played in the NFL. It's so big. And you think about it, it's surreal, I bet, when you're standing on the sidelines and the fighter jets come over, before the kickoff and the flyover, and the national anthem is sung. Man, there'll be, and it's a global event. And that's what's so cool about it. World champions. But which team was it Tampa Bay that played in Germany, a game this year with over 80,000 people in attendance in the fatherland? That's pretty strong.
So,
yeah, I think it was Tampa Bay and Seattle. Yes.
Yeah. That's and we know, hell, there's 750, 800,000 expats, American nationals that have, I guess, dual citizenship, that work and live in London. That's like, this is a powerful brand, and we're seeing more and more college teams go to Dublin and play over there. So this is big. Matt, make a case. I'm going to do this with you first, Matt, then you, Jerry. Make a case for the Eagles winning because Jalen Hurts does what?
Jalen Hurts is able to pick up big first downs on third down situations with his legs, and they are able to hit a couple big plays downfield against the Chiefs secondary on some of those zero blitz situations that Jerry was describing. Also, I do want to give props to Nick Sirianni because I think he's a masterful offensive mind. But I do want to give my last case to the Eagles is I think their defensive line is very good. And they create a lot of problems from Fletcher Cox to Hassan Reddick, even Brandon Graham at the linebacker position, Darius Slay Jr., one of the best cornerbacks in the league. I just think the Eagles are honestly, if Jalen Hurts is close to 100%, which I'm not sure he was week one of the playoffs, I like their chances. I still think the health factor of the quarterbacks are huge. Is Mahomes' ankle better than Hurts' shoulder? We're going to find out.
Yeah. Jerry, make your case. Eagles win over Chiefs. And I have a text that just came in from one of our listeners that wants to ask y'all a question.
All right. Well, mine's kind of easy. I mean, obviously, if they average 5 to 6 yards a carry, I mean, it's pretty much over. Hurts won't have to throw the ball. I mean, it's just that simple. And if I was a Chiefs defense coordinator, I would bear front him at the beginning of the game. I would go 5-6. I'm going to say, Jalen Hurts, I don't think you're a pocket passer, so you're going to beat me with your arm instead of your legs. I mean,
Yeah. Well, this is a question from Artemis Powell, one of our listeners from Jacksonville, Florida. Artemis Powell, what a great name. He is asking this question. He says, give me the top sleeper player on the Chiefs and the Eagles that you think could have the game of their life that nobody's expecting, but you think it's going to happen.
That's a tough one. I don't know if Reddick is a sleeper, but I think if the Eagles win, I think he has a chance of winning the MVP. So, oh boy, Kansas City. I would have to Pacheco, I guess. I mean, I don't think if the Chiefs win, I just don't think anybody besides Mahomes is going to win the MVP.
Okay. All right. Listen. All right. So let's give your pick before we let you go. We got Jason Caldwell on from inside the Auburn Tigers coming up. So I want to pick because I got a lot of people checking. Jethro Tull just texted from Duncanville, Texas, and said, "Give me a score because I'm betting the farm. Literally, I'm betting the farm on what Jerry Kerby says." I like this guy, Jethro Tull.
I got Chiefs winning 33-30.
All right. I tell you what, if we hear a loud screaming, wailing cry Sunday night, he's coming for you. I'm kidding. Jerry Kerby, let's do this again next week. We'll do a post-mortem on the Super Bowl, but I love it. What's the stat also? The teams wearing white jerseys in the Super Bowl are what?
36-20.
All right. You heard it. Jerry Kerby, live from Clarksville, Tennessee, NFL Human Computer Chip. I love it. Thanks so much. Talk to you next week.
Thank you.
All right. Jason Caldwell inside the Auburn Tigers joins us, and I always love having Jason on. Matt Dean as well. We've been breaking down the Super Bowl in that first segment. And Jason, man, you've got to be a very busy man. I know the last couple of years, Auburn recruiting was like Carlton the doorman on the old Rhodes show in football. You heard about recruiting, but you didn't see results. And I got to give you thumbs up because I would ask you, and I couldn't prod you, cajole you, or anything into saying something that you really didn't believe. And now let's go back from where we were 2 years ago and throughout the previous administration, Brian Harsin, and what he was doing. How much better do you feel about the future of Auburn football, not to mention basketball and baseball, but specifically football today?
Yeah, it's light years different than it was. I mean, this time last year, this time, 2.5 months ago, it's light years difference in terms of everything associated with the program. There were some good pieces in place, and I told you last year that I thought there was enough talent last year to compete with most of the teams on the schedule, and it showed up once they made a coaching change at the end of the year. They competed much better than they did, just by kind of flying by the seat of their pants. But also said, look, the next season, 2023, is in serious trouble.
Yeah. Well,
they've remedied that a good bit. That would not have happened had they not made a coaching change. They would have been in serious trouble. I said I had Auburn 4 wins. That would have been my top of the line probably had that coaching change not happened. And Now you're looking at going, hey, let's see what happens in the spring, but they've gone out and got help on the lines of scrimmage. They did a good job in kind of finishing up the signing class. I think a really intriguing coaching staff has come in. We'll see what they're able to do. Quarterback play obviously is a big part of that, but offensive line to me is an even bigger part of it. You got to get those guys in place where the other guys don't matter on offense, and so they went out and helped themselves in that regard. How quickly can they kind of put the pieces together and see what they got in the spring will be the thing. But yeah, no, the feeling around a fan base in that building, on the team, all of that it's light years different than it was last year.
Well, the Waltolt's a football performance center. What's that like?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to kind of walk through and see everything that is now at the luxury of these guys. And I've had, a couple of guys that I've covered in years past that went on to play in the NFL for a while. Ben Grubbs came through, saw it. King Dunlap came through and saw it. And they're like, you don't have this in the NFL. The NFL doesn't have the things that college football has. And that's the things that these guys need to understand. You want more of this, you want more of that. You have it better than other than the money wise, but the day in and day out, what you have in college football is better than what most people have in the NFL. Facilities, all the things you get to go along with it, your everyday life are really good at most of these major college programs. And right now, Auburn's facility is as good as it gets. I mean, there are not many places in the world, because there's only 5 of these machines that have been made, period, in the world. Auburn has one of that. They do a 3D imaging. They can stand on a platform. They do a 3D imaging around. And if somebody hurts a shin, they can 3D print a brace that fits exactly that person. They can do it for an ankle, for an elbow. And they can print it and have a brace in a few hours, whereas normally that would have taken a couple of days at least, and then you would have had to fit it. I mean, just little things like that. I mean, it's top notch, and I think it's going to add a lot to the program in terms of every day, but also recruiting. Yeah,
we had Dr. Michael Zabala, Exo Armor, on the show, engineer at Auburn, talking about that you could literally they've had this happen. A football player is injured in the first quarter of a game, and they get all the information sent real-time data, and they're able to do 3D imaging. You've got a printer on the other end. He starts the game second half, third quarter with a brace modified for his wrist or leg or whatever, and it's game on. This is really, really big stuff. That's the power of engineering in the Samuel Ginn College of Engineering. But Michael Zabala and that team, I did see, I watched a tour, and I saw Bill Cameron and a bunch of people going through there. That place is, it looks like the Starship Enterprise. It's amazing.
Well, you get a program with those type of facilities. Now you've hired a head coach that understands SEC recruiting. He's a great game coach, very good tactician. And like you mentioned, Jason, they tweaked the roster through the portal and finished up a strong class. You sold me. I mean, that just shows you, sometimes you think you're so far away, but you get the right person and you have those extraordinary facilities and you have the tradition. You're not that far away. Different example, different league, but you look what TCU did last year, coming off, what was it, 4 or 5 win team, and you played for a national championship. So I've always been a huge Auburn believer. Last couple of years were tough. I understand that, but I think they're in a really good path right now.
Yeah, no, and you're right. TCU kind of shows the example. Now, they had a lot of starters returning and added some really good pieces to it, and added, so that was. But it was new coaching staff, and the things they did, quarterback play, pushed them over the top with a guy like Max Duggan. That was the thing that kind of separated them. But they also won 3 or 4 really close games to get to where they were. and they kind of kept improving throughout the year. That's the goal. When you play in these leagues, you're going to have to win a few close ones. You're going to have to get a few breaks, and then you got to keep improving. And can you do all those things? Can you stay healthy? They stayed healthy. All those things are things that are important. That's why the Georgias and Alabamas, Ohio State too, are more equipped because they have more of those guys. Absolutely. They have more guys to withstand the things that you go through in the season. And that's the thing about Auburn. They still don't have a whole lot of bullets to play with. I mean, they can't. Yeah. They're like Barney. They can't wash too many of them in the pocket and get away with it. But when you look at it, you've gone from I didn't think much of a chance. You're now giving yourself a chance now.
Jason, hold that thought. We're going to take a break because that's the significant part about this, how that narrative for the 23 season is changing right before our eyes. Back with Jason Caldwell, Matt Dean, Rob Browne after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Jason, what's happening, and Matt mentioned it, and Matt's son has been the last 4 years was on the staff with Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M. Now he's just finished his first year with Dan Lanning at Oregon. And you talk about facilities. You can have all the facilities in the world, but if you don't have the right chemistry, the right culture, you can have a breakdown. And what I'm seeing, Jason, with Auburn is a return to that Auburn family culture. That's what Auburn always has when Auburn is successful.
It's and I talked about it some a little bit, but it's kind of cliche a little bit, but it's true. And so you can, people can dog it, dismiss it, do whatever they want to. I talked to Brandon Frazier this week. He was a 4-star tight end.
Yes.
This is his 4th year at Auburn. This is a guy that everybody thought was going to be a superstar. He has 4 career catches. He's never really done a whole lot.
Yeah.
And I talked to him this week. I said, look, why are you still here? Normally, nowadays, those guys don't stay places. They leave. Third coach hasn't worked out. He's like, I like it. I like the place. This is where I want to be. I want to give it a shot here. And, you don't find many of those guys. I mean, just think what happened. They lost a couple of guys. That was it. After a coaching change for the 3rd time, everybody else said, look, I'm good. Let's roll. I mean, you had 2 or 3 guys that had NFL opportunities, especially in that defensive backfield, that said, no, I want to come back. It's part of it, but you have to see that from the guys that are leading you. And that was, talked to John Cohen. I had a kind of one-on-one sit down with him, and I asked him about the fit. He goes, this is kind of what he saw, and he was right. I mean, we'll see how it works out. It may not work, but as of today, the fit looks like it's exactly what Auburn needs. And we talked about this, Rob, for the last couple of years. You got to have somebody that at this place, Auburn's not Alabama. Auburn's not Florida. Auburn is a place where you got to have you got to go eat breakfast in town. You got to go to the grocery store, go to the women's basketball game, hang out with people. Hugh Freeze will do some of those things. And to me, it's already started to pay off in addition to the beating the Rhodes and talking to high school football coaches.
Yeah. Everything's about relationships. And people can tell when you are genuine, and they can tell when you're not. But if you're not out beating the pavement, knocking on the doors, and recruiting, and getting to build relationships with the kids in 7th and 8th and 9th grade, you've got no chance to get them virtually when they're seniors, because most of them are already making up their minds late in their junior year anyway. Matt Dean, jump back in here with Jason Caldwell inside the Auburn Tigers. Great discussion.
Well, it just shows you how you can get off the track, because you look at the model. Georgia and Alabama have been just the epitome of consistency. Obviously, Alabama's at the top of the chart. Jason, I'm from the Midwest, so unfortunately, I've never been a big Ohio State fan, but they're a great example of a lot of consistency in their program. And it just shows you how one hire can get you off the rails of the track for a few years, and that's what happened here. And now you get someone who's a proven winner, did a wonderful job at Ole Miss. Wonderful job. I think he won twice against Saban, if I'm not mistaken. And some of his kids that he recruited there were high draft picks in the NFL. And you look at the wealth of talent. I'll go back 2 years ago, guys. Auburn had Alabama beating the Iron Bowl. And isn't that the year that Alabama ended up beating Georgia in the SEC championship game before they lost to him in the rematch, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of pieces. I'm a Big Ten guy. I'm an Iowa fan. I'd love to have some of the talent that's still currently at the University of Auburn if I'm the head football coach. So now Hugh Freeze will develop players. The quarterback situation, the quarterback room will be fixed. Okay. Now, whether or not you get the play you want, that's a different conversation. And I really like what you talked about, the young man, the tight end. I like someone that loves the university, loves being a part of that football program, that wants to play for someone who's a proven winner. It wouldn't surprise me if they won 9-10 games next year. I don't even know the schedule.
I think it has to. Everything has to fall in place perfectly.
Right. And injuries are a factor, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, you've given yourself, again, it's opportunity, and something that Rob mentioned earlier, and your Iowa connection. The other thing is, guys have to be put in the right place.
Yes,
you have to put the pieces together to do it the right way. I mean, and look at Iowa. I mean, I was the first example is you look, the best defense in the country. They got some guys, but offensively, they haven't given themselves the opportunity to take the next step because they're still kind of playing an antiquated system a little bit. Auburn is
a little bit of a nepotism problem too, Jason. We have a nepotism problem up there.
Yeah, and that's it. And so you look at Auburn and you go back to using some tempo, doing some things that can give you an advantage. And this is how kids play. In the South now, you don't find hardly anybody that huddles up, especially not in above 5A, 6A football. Those teams are in shotgun. They're spreading the field. These guys are playing 7-on-7s all summer. And then you get to college and you huddle and do those things, and you're under center. And I'm fine with being under center some. I think you need to be able to do both, and NFL teams do that. But you also need to be able to go, hey, we got them on the ropes. Let's get back to the line of scrimmage and run another play. Let's be able to throw the football out of multiple formations, do all the things you need to do. And to me, if you do that offensively, then you've given yourself a chance, because here's what we know. If you can't score right now, then you can't compete for a national championship. Now, you still got to play defense and you still got to do that. But if you can't score, you can't do it. And you got to be able to score points.
This is a good point made by one of our listeners, Jim Swarthow, listening in Provo, Utah, said, you mentioned that kid, Brandon Frazier. I don't know what his major is, but as a business owner, that's the first guy I want to interview right now. So I agree with him. I mean, I say this all the time, but you find me the kid that has to work his butt off and gets knocked down, keeps getting back up in relative obscurity, basic anonymity. 4 catches in 4 years. He came in as a 4-star, and he goes, I don't want to leave. I love it here. I mean, find me some more Brandon Fraziers. Look, I know you got big names. We know that. But you find me those guys, they will kick butt in the business world. And if he makes it at the next level, has a great senior season, and all of a sudden, wow, look out. But what you're saying is, and these defensive backs and these other guys that are sticking it out, that might be because 48% of the kids going in the portal, Jason, are ending up in the portal. It's like purgatory. They're not getting out.
Yeah, and I'll give you him. Does it sound like we need him? He's supply chain management.
Okay.
I think
he's supply chain management.
We could use him somewhere right now.
I'll help him get a job if you. We'll talk later today. I know people that are hiring in that.
Yeah, no, but
I can't find people.
Yeah, and so you're right. I mean, it's those are pieces that you have to have in a program. And hey, Hugh Freeze is, think back to Evan Ingram and the guys, Dawson Knox, the guys they had at tight end, and used those guys in that offense. And Auburn brings in Rivaldo Fairweather from Florida International, but you have, you got Frazier back, you got Luke Deal back, you got Tyler Fromm back, Micah Riley Ducker's there, Landon King. This is a team that has some pieces. Can you put those pieces in the right spot? Because it all starts with that offensive line, but you think about Jarquez Hunter coming back at running back. What happens at quarterback? That's the one of the $1 million questions. There's a few of them. We'll start to learn here in a couple of weeks. They start practice the end of this month, so it's a quick turnaround for them. And but the players are excited. I think the coaches are just kind of ready to see what they got now. And then because there's another transfer portal window coming after the spring, you may realize, well, we need this, this, and this, or you may realize, hey, we're in pretty good shape. You won't know that till they get off the field.
You know what, Matt, and Jason, I'm going to draw a picture. The transfer portal now, when I think about what it really is, remember when you were a kid and you got mad and you said you were going to run away from home and you put all your stuff in a bandana at the end of a stick and you started heading out? Well, that's what the portal is. Say, look, okay, go ahead. Good luck out there. I think these kids, like Landon King, remember him? He was in the portal. He came back. And this, I'm seeing more and more of this. I saw what Nick Saban did. Hey, we want this and this. See ya. Goodbye. Have fun. There's more to that story than we probably know. But Jason, you're giving people some tangible evidence that if you create the right culture, you bring the right people in, you're not going to have hemorrhaging in the portal. Matt, would you agree?
Well, I agree, and I want to touch both ways because there's a lot of kids that go in the portal and never get out or go play at a lower level, ironically, right? But I'll give you some examples where it works. If I'm not mistaken, Bo Nix played 1 year for Harsin, correct?
Yeah.
You tell me Bo didn't realize this thing was pretty doggone broken?
Yes.
And he takes a chance on his former offensive coordinator, Kenny Dillingham, who now gets the job at Arizona State. Goes with a really talented first-year head coach in Dan Lanning, whose energy's off the charts, guys. Not only has a Heisman type year until he gets hurt in the Washington game late in that game, comes back for the bowl game, helps them win the bowl game, and then decides, I'm going to come back for my COVID year, whatever year of eligibility that is, and could have been probably maybe a second or third round grade, I'm guessing. So the portal does work too, Rob. I get what you've said all along, but Bo Nix is a great example. This is not working. I'm not getting maybe the coaching I need. And Bo Nix is one of the best leaders. My son says, Dad, this guy is just unreal. You've coached a lot of great leaders. It's talking to me. And I'm like, that's great to hear because he's back for another year. So it does work sometimes too.
Oh, it does. And no, that's a kid I've known since he was in the 7th grade, I think. And so not a surprise for me. And you're right. But it's all about, again, it comes back to fit, comes back to, what works best with the pieces. And that's, when I think about it, we talked to all the assistant coaches, defense, offense, coordinators, and I heard them talk about, look, we'll figure it out. Yeah. We'll figure it out based on who steps up. And on defense, we said, look, we may play 2 true inside linebackers. There may be 2 true outside linebackers, but we're going to play the best 11 guys we got and then figure it out.
Yeah.
It's not that
for the
hard.
record. Yeah. I just want to say for the record, you're right. There are some instances where the portal works perfectly. I mean, look, Auburn's benefiting. Everybody's benefiting from it. I guess I'm too strong in my opinion of, don't quit because things aren't going your way, and stick it out because for God's sakes, man, we've all been through rough patches, rough spots in our lives and our careers, whatever you do, your marriage, whatever, if it's worth having, it's worth fighting for. But you're right. In Bo's case, he, the canary in the coal mine was what he saw, and he had to make the move. But I wish him nothing but the best. I mean, Jason, you've known him since 7th grade. You know these guys. Let me ask you this, Jason, when you're talking to these kids that are playing at Auburn, and you know guys on all these teams because you know them from recruiting and they don't all come to Auburn. How different are they in those conversations than conversations you had 10, 15, and 20 years ago?
Not a whole lot.
Okay.
In the grand scheme of things, because here's the thing, it's a different experience, but it's not a different experience for me because I'm not asking guys about NIL. To me, it's still about relationships, and that's what I talk about. And so, so the conversations aren't really that different. Different maybe in terms of how they look at some schools, how these guys do it. And sometimes it's more difficult maybe to figure out early on. Used to, I had a pretty good idea. Early on, you knew this guy's they're going to have a great shot at. Now it kind of depends on the individual and what they're looking for, because we've seen it in recruiting. If you're looking for NIL, then you may go somewhere that you haven't even visited. And if that's the most important thing for you, that's fine. I would hesitate and say that I would say a lot of those times that won't work out and they'll wind up going somewhere else eventually. Yeah. I still think relationships, the proximity to home is still important for a lot of guys, but relationships, opportunity, and hey, just that old fashioned feel when you walk on campus, to me, still the most important thing in recruiting.
Yeah, that's what Walker White said when he made his visit to Auburn, the quarterback at a Little Rock Christian.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you hear it so many times. I think it's still the most important thing for a lot of guys when they look at it going, hey, man, what does it look like when I get there? What's my opportunity? And does this feel like the right place? That's still a big deal.
Yeah. Matt, from years of coaching, being an AD at Rhodes College, I always like to say D1, D2, D3. It doesn't matter. It's all about relationships. And now, of course, haven't you really always had to re-recruit your players, because kids have always been able to transfer. It just wasn't as easy as it is now. Is that true?
No, you're 100% correct. I'll tell you another thing that happens when I was coaching is, you never know how a kid's going to react to being away from home for the first time. That first semester is vital. First of all, you have the most freedom you've ever had in your life. Okay. Because you're not being told what time to be home and what time to get up. Secondly, getting homesick's real. I've had kids that it's gotten better, but it was a process. And then finally, the academic side. Some of these kids are challenged at a level they've never been challenged before, especially a place like I've coached at, guys. Our average ACT is 30-31. So in that classroom setting, for the first time, you may be a 30 ACT, but you're around a bunch of 33 to 36s that are brilliant. Yeah. So the competition at our place in the classroom is different, let alone the practice field, right? Yeah. Or the basketball court. So you and your staff better have a pulse on your kids when they enter that first, and the SEC with the practice starts, late July, early August, whatever you have. I mean, you have a month where you really have them on your own terms. But once the season starts, and if you're a first-year kid in football, you're not playing for the most part. You're learning a position, you're learning a staff, you're learning your whole scenario. You better know what's going on with your kids. And then if you were one of these NLI kids that have a great deal supposedly, and you're not playing, you have all these people sometimes in your circle that are telling you, hey, if you go to these places, because they have nothing but time to research how poorly other people are doing in the country, right? So, man, I'm just telling you, I think Jason touched on this, the staff is so important. Head coach, I get it. The staff with football is so important.
Hold that thought. Come back, and I want Jason. I got one more question for him. I've got to ask him after this quick break. Jason Caldwell, inside the Auburn Tigers. Matt Dean, Rob Browne with you after this. All right, Jason Caldwell. One more question. When you're looking now in what is going on in recruiting, we haven't even really touched on basketball. Auburn last week got two big players, a 4 and a 5-star in basketball, a 4-star in football. And the narrative on Auburn is they need bigger guards. And is help on the way for Auburn? And is that just an Auburn problem, or is that an everywhere problem? Because I don't see the big 6'4", 6'5" shooting guards out there. A lot of them, at least.
Yeah, there's not a ton of those guys. Now I think they're almost getting sized out a little bit. You'll find a few of them, but normally you have a smaller guard, and then you have a 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", two guards, three, or the small forwards. Yeah. It's kind of a change in a little bit of style, but you look and you can be successful as a 6 foot tall point guard, and the NBA still showcases a bunch of those guys are still doing really well in the league at that height. But you look at kind of pairing the pieces together, and adding a guy like LeBaron Fallon, is a guy that's a 6'3", 6'4", could be a point, could be a 2, has some Ja Morant qualities to him, and that explosiveness, a guy that can get to the rim, do all those things, and just knows how to score. And so, really important, pickups for them. And they've got some guys. Here's the thing: if you're going to be 5'11", 6 foot tall, you have to be a really good shooter, because it's so hard to get to the paint now and do those things. And so you can still live in that. And you think about the guys in the NBA, like I said, but and so the pieces they're adding in, coming in this year and next year, they got a couple of point guards that are 6 foot 6'1". Those guys can really shoot. And so when you're able to do that and pair them up with a bigger guard and some big bodies inside, then I think it opens up everything. Yeah.
Well, it's fun to watch, man. Jason, as always, appreciate your time on here. And that was a great interview, by the way, I watched. And Matt, you ought to check it out. Jason's one-on-one with Auburn AD John Cohen. I found it on YouTube. It was really, really good, about 17 and a half minutes. It was very revealing. I loved it. Tell people, Jason, how they can follow you and keep up with all the great work you do at Auburn Undercover.
Yeah, you can check us out at auburnundercover.com, autigers.com. I'll get you there. And you can also follow me on Twitter, as you see there, ITAT Jason. And we got tons of stuff going on. Auburn, Alabama basketball tomorrow. Obviously spring football here pretty soon, and baseball gets started next weekend. So lots of things going on.
Jason, one thing, give me a pick on the Super Bowl, a score.
Yeah, I like Jalen Hurts, and I like their ability to run the football. I think he's a game changer at that position. And so I picked the Eagles. To win, I didn't really pick. And so I somewhere, 31-27, something like that. And all I said was, I'll watch a little bit of it. No commercials, no halftime. So that's my thing. I'm sticking to it. I won't need any of those other things. Give me a little football, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Iron Bowl of basketball tomorrow. That's going to be a tough one. What do you rate Auburn's chances tomorrow? It's at the Jungle at Auburn Arena. It's going to be an incredible atmosphere. But Alabama's really good. But Auburn has shown, that they can play with anybody. But can they do it a full 40?
Yeah, that's the question, and it's got to happen. You got to do it a full 40 minutes, and it's got to be in the 60s, low 70s for me. If you get up there and start to have a scoring fest with this Alabama team, you're in trouble. So you got to play really good defense, make it hard for them to shoot those threes, contest them, and then you give yourself a really good shot.
All right, it's going to be fun to watch. We'll talk again next week. Thanks again.
Thanks, appreciate it.
All right, Bo Carter. Former SID at Mississippi State in the Big 12 office for a long time. Previous to that, in the Southwest Conference. And in fact, Bo was there when the Southwest Conference closed for business and became the Big 12. Now, National Football Foundation writer, Baseball Writers of America. Matt Dean over in Memphis at Rhodes College at the Temple up there, the most beautiful inner city campus in America, Rhodes College, right down the street from my favorite tavern, the oldest continuously open tavern in Memphis since 1953, Alex's Tavern. The coldest road sodas, jukebox with 5,000 tunes, 6 flat screen TVs, unbelievable wings, the Greek shrimp, the barbecued Greek ribs. Don't worry, Rendezvous. He only makes about 30 slabs a weekend, but that's an incredible place. And the shuffleboard table that one time was taken out to be fixed by the guy, and he never brought it back, but it was brought back. My kids grew up going down there when my man Sonny Wilson, who was ageless, was in there, and it's a special place. But anyway, let's get talking, man. Bo Carter, we've got our intern, William Halliday, is going to be on here in just a few minutes. He is a journalist, aspiring journalist, writing for the Auburn Plainsman, and from Memphis, went to MUS. And I said, who better for you to learn from than one of our esteemed colleagues, like Matt is. Y'all are esteemed colleagues. You're not just colleagues, you're esteemed colleagues and friends. He'll be on with us. And Matt, in the final segment, Norman Jetmanson, who he was in Memphis last night from Birmingham. He produced and David Cruz a documentary, Sewanee 1899 Unrivaled, an incredible documentary. And I said, I want you to get on here with Bo Carter. Bo, this will be a cool story for you and the National Football Foundation writers about this documentary, which took him 6 years to make. It's amazing what it takes to put a feature film together. But got some news last night. I'm sure you saw it, Matt, on the color TV. Bo, I did. The neighbors had the blinds pulled up. You know, that cable's pretty expensive. So look through there. The Big 12 made an announcement last night, and William Halliday is on with us right now as he's trying to get balanced in on his phone. But Bo, what did the Big 12 say last night? It's pretty big news.
Well, the big thing was I'm hoping that some of that $100 million exit fee is going to go toward my retirement program with with the Big 12.
There you go.
Rob, it's amazing. I've heard 2 or 3 reports. One was that Fox Sports was the holdup, and Matt, you probably heard this too. Without inventory, Oklahoma and Texas are the tradition for 25 years have been the highest rated teams when they do play on Fox, ESPN, in Big 12 football. So they did want to, the TV people really pushing hard for another season for that. But and there was supposedly an $80 million exit fee when after 2011, when the first wave of teams left the Big 12. So they compromised on $50 million each. And I think I read a little blurb that they're going to get part of the 23-24 end of the year supplement from the Big 12. So it's going to be, I guess, seems like everybody's happy on all areas. And the SEC's very elated to get those teams in for the 24 season.
All right, one more here, and William Halliday is on with us right now. And William, you're down at Auburn writing for the Plainsman. You talked about, Oklahoma and Texas. They're going to come in. It's going to be July of 2024 that they will be in. But this is a figure, gentlemen, that came out last night. I saw it on Twitter. Barrett Salih, CBS Sports, put out the SEC distributed, I think, $49.6 million to each school. And I replied, that's not nearly as much as I think people thought. We keep hearing 75, 80 million, 100 million when Texas and Oklahoma get in. Are you telling me those two schools are overnight going to double the revenue that is being paid out? Ricky, Ricardo, and Lucy, you got some explaining to do to me. Somebody make sense out of this thing. Bo?
Well, yeah, it's the TV market is driving it. And then, you've got the other side show this week. The Pac-12 came to Dallas to talk to SMU. They'd love to get that Dallas television market, and they're right in the middle of their media rights contract for coming up. So I tell you what, Rob, the not just television rights, but all the branding, your web streaming, the whole thing, the ESPN Plus, all those have taken on such a big role now. They've become the major. It used to be bowl games, conference championship, et cetera. Now it's multimedia TV, web stream, the whole thing. So it's, you can see where Texas and Oklahoma could be worth $25-30 million a year to the SEC.
Yeah. Now look, here is the gateway, the gatekeeper to the young generation, my kid's age, William Halliday. William, you watch sports. You're writing for the Auburn Plainsman. You're a freshman at Auburn, majoring in journalism. He got to go up to the Auburn Tennessee game last weekend, Bo. Now, keep in mind, William, Bo was the SID, Sports Information Director at Mississippi State, then in the Southwest Conference, the Big 12 office, now a writer for the National Football Foundation, Baseball Writers of America. Matt Dean, Associate AD now, former AD and women's basketball coach at Rhodes College in Memphis, where you're from. So you got some pretty smart people on there. Then you got me, Junior Samples. That's BR549, and don't forget that. Remember that BR549? But I got to ask you this, William. You and your peers, okay, you're watching a football game. Are you watching it on your iPhone, an iPad? Are you streaming? And do you know anybody who still pays for cable?
I do know other people that still pays for cable because that's what everybody's watching the game on at their dorm is we got to pay for the Auburn cable that they give us.
There you go. Okay. No, you have to because it's part of the package.
Yes, sir.
If you had a choice, would you cut the cord?
I would not because I unfortunately cannot get the game on my phone.
Ooh. So see, the reason I'm asking you this is because I got it.
Now other people will use it, but for me personally, I will not.
Yeah. I had a little town in Alabama. A man tell me this last year. He said 10 years ago, there were a little over 8,000 subscribers to the local cable service. He said now there's less than 1,000. So, that's what I'm just saying. How do people get their sports? And Matt, start with you. He's getting it. He's going to watch it on cable because you live in the college student in a dorm. Matt, how do you watch your sports? Do you stream or do you still pay for cable?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I think a lot of it depends on where you are financially. For me, for years, I was a cable guy. Then I switched to DirecTV strictly for the NFL, right?
Yeah.
And as my Chicago Bears have just faded away, I made a decision to go to YouTube TV last year. Save myself about $150 a month.
Yeah,
because I'm maybe 4 or 5 years away from a fixed income. Hopefully, I can get there. And I just, like for me now, I probably watched guys. I did last night. I watched a documentary on Bill Russell on Netflix that was absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
So the more I spend on these streaming services time, unless there's a big game, and I'll tell you, I've coached college basketball for nearly 3 decades. So unless it's a big game, I'm not going to watch, some of these games that are not meaningful. I'd rather just kind of follow them on Twitter or watch a Netflix film. I may be the exception to the rule.
Yeah. Bo?
I'm like me, a DirecTV guy mainly. I'm too cheap to download the stuff on my iPhone. So our friends at AT&T keep going up on rates every 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But no, Matt had a great point. My wife and I talked about Roku or Fire TV or whatever too. So it's the whole thing's changed. I think I read, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong on this. I think ESPN lost between 2 and 3 million subscribers last year. The Disney company is not happy about losing money on anything, so they're scrambling, and that's why they're pushing ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, and all the streaming services so hard.
I'll tell y'all something. Audrey and I, if the neighbors have the blinds pulled up, we watch the games. If the blinds are down, I'm kidding. No, but we stream. We got YouTube, and right now, one of the toughest things I've ever done. I mean, I'm pretty good in sales. I can sell a box of ketchup popsicles to a lady in white gloves, okay? Borrow the line from Tommy Boy. But trying to convince my 88-year-old mother, who's very smart, and my 94-year-old father, who's very smart, he's an architect and an artist, very smart man, to go from their cable service, which is around $200 a month, to streaming, which is about $65.
That's right.
Is like, I might as well be telling somebody, I'm like the guy sitting in the electric chair and asks his grandson to come sit in his lap. I can't get it. And they're going, I'm like, come on, you'll save my, and I'm like, and after a couple of weeks, you'll figure it out. William, you're a young sports writer. Okay. I know you've got questions for Bo, as a writer, the National Football Foundation. what are you writing about right now? And you grew up watching sports. I know everybody in your family, your grandfather, biggest Tennessee fan I've ever known in my life, along with Dr. Monger. The Mongers, after I think it's almost 100 years, still have their season tickets in Knoxville on the 50-yard line. And Tripp and Dorothy and Lloyd, Uncle Charlie's grandparents, lived across the street from a man named General Robert Neyland. By the way, there's a photograph that I want so badly. Ralph Jordan Jr. has it. It's a picture in the Andrew Johnson Hotel at the bar. And it is General Neyland, Shug Jordan, and Johnny Vault all bellied up to the bar. I wonder what they were talking about. Wheel of Fortune or the price of Slim Jims? I don't know. Maybe a little football in there. But, William, what are you writing about?
Well, at the moment, I'm not writing anything right now because I just got off writing the Auburn, Tennessee game. But we're heading into baseball season right now, and this weekend is a big baseball season for Auburn. This weekend, multiple games are being played for softball and baseball. But at the moment, not anything. But I guess my question for you, Mr. Carter, is our editor talks about having a good lead into our story. That seems it's really important. So I do my best to write a good lead. I guess what is your advice for writing a good lead and how to draw people into your story?
Hey, thanks, William. As a former journalism teacher at North Texas, we emphasize this all that. And Associated Press style, remember that. I remember the Auburn played its best basketball game. Not Auburn played their best basketball.
Right. Yeah.
Matt can appreciate this old English agreement, subject verb. No, the big thing, especially for student newspapers and student media, is to get something catchy like, William Halliday didn't expect to score 100 points against Vanderbilt last night, but he scored 102. Something that's catchy and catches the people's eye. And be sure to get the score in the first 5 paragraphs for your story somewhere. We've got the Nashville Tennessean had a story of an Alabama Tennessee game, and the guy took 8. Matt could appreciate this. The guy got the score of the game in the 8th paragraph, and I think something like the pummeling pachyderms of Alabama rolled into Knoxville and beat this Grantland Rice type stuff. But no, catch the people's eyes with your lead and some feature something tragic.
Hold that thought, Matt, because you're on a roll. I want to hear this. I know William does, and everybody, any aspiring young journalist, right back after this quick commercial message.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Bo Carter, let those thoughts go again, because you were rolling before the break about journalism and William's question of, in your lead, what's the best advice?
Well, yeah, sorry to get long-winded, William, but like I said, something catchy, something tragic, something fun, anything, of Auburn. And last week's great story, Auburn and Tennessee played the lowest scoring, and Matt can appreciate this, game between top 25 teams in the history of the Associated Press. In fact, the previous one, 1962, Babe McCarthy went in the 4-corner and beat Mississippi State edged Kentucky 49-42. So, and I think last week was just a case of both teams shooting a lot of bricks up there, Matt. I can't seem like, but anything to sort of catch the reader's eye, and that takes you on down. That really makes them read the story.
William, did you hear what Bo just said about the historical significance of that game?
I did.
I did not know that, Bo. That did you put that in your story, William? Did you know that at the time? I mean, I'm not trying to rip in, but I wonder if you knew that, or if that was put out.
I did not know that at the time, to be honest.
Bo, say it again. One of our listeners, Junior Samples in Columbiana, Alabama, just said, "Say that again."
It's a game that Matt Dean could appreciate. Great defense. It was a total of 89 points scored between the two teams, both ranked in the Associated Press poll. And AP went back and researched it. The previous one was a 91-point game between Mississippi State and Kentucky in 1962, when they still had the peach basket up in a few places.
Yeah. Matt, I mean, I know you probably had some games that were rough, but maybe you weren't ranked or whatever like that. But how does that happen?
Well, it's even, Bo's statistic is really mind-boggling. But in 1962, there was obviously not a shot clock. And in the shot clock era, I've coached in a lot of basketball games. I don't think I've ever won a game in the 40s. If I did, it would probably be when I was coaching junior varsity high school basketball. And to be honest with you, when I was watching some of that game, it just basically it shows the struggles Tennessee has scoring the basketball, because they guard so well. Even the way they lost to Vanderbilt the other night, everyone's going to talk about the shot that beat them, but there were some things leading up to that, obviously, that probably didn't go the way that Coach Barnes wanted to. But Bo, I immediately thought of Dean Smith in the four-quarter offense, and probably, you've been blessed to cover some terrific college basketball coaches, but I look back at the whole Al McGuire was one of my favorite college basketball coaches when he won the national championship with Bo Ellis. I believe Butch Lee was his point guard, and I think Rick Majerus was his assistant coach, and I think they beat North Carolina maybe 77, 76 era. But the great thing about Coach McGuire is, he could play in the 70s and 80s. He could play in the 50s, 40s back then. That was one of the few, coaches that I remember that did that so effectively. And then if North Carolina had the lead with 5 minutes to go, they would just bring it out. They wouldn't shoot the ball because there was no shot clock. The shot clock revolutionized the game of basketball. So, Rob, getting back to your point, it's mind-boggling. That's a first-half score, 46-43.
Yeah.
I could not, the talent on that floor, I'm like, this is not happening.
Yeah. Well, Jimmy Himes, who's on with us a lot, covers Tennessee sports animal, and a longtime sports writer for the Knoxville News Sentinel, really has a grasp of sports history, all college football, basketball, baseball, you name it. One of our favorite guests. He said there were 88 missed shots in the game and 12 missed free throws? That was 100 missed shots. William, you were there. That set, look, I remember watching a game that set football back maybe 50 years, the 2008 Auburn Mississippi State game. Auburn won 3-2 in 10 innings. It was horrible. Okay. That was a great defensive showdown. No, it wasn't. That was a horrible game. Have you ever seen a game like this, William? And I know you've seen a lot of games. Don't count in the Grizzlies games, because that's the NBA. Have you ever seen a college game in person or on TV like that?
Well, I've seen Tennessee put up numbers like that before, but I've never seen both teams shoot terrible from deep like that. I mean, both Auburn and Tennessee shot under, I think, 15 or 10% from three. That's bad. Like only making 5 threes out of 30 or 40 shots. That's really bad. And just being a witness at that game, I saw their forward, Tennessee, Olivier Kamwa, he shot 1 of 6 on his first 6 attempts. He missed his first 4 until making his first one, and it was terrible to watch, honestly. Like it was not that fun.
It was Auburn was 11% from 3-point range. Tennessee was 9%. And
Yes.
but I tell you guys, and I want to go back to it, Bo, for William, and I'm gonna ask you this first, William. Of your peer group, where do you get your information on sports? Is it online? Do you listen to radio, or do you read it? Or no, you're different because you're a journalist. You're probably doing all of it, but your typical peer your age, and we're just looking at where they go. We got a lot of young listeners that listen on this show, and they all listen, that they tell me, on their iPhone.
Right. I'd probably say that popular place to get their sports information is either on social media or the ESPN app. That's probably the two popular answers, I'd probably say.
Yeah. So, Bo, when William's writing, how does he need, what are some tips and some suggestions you would have for him to get through to people who get their information that way?
Rob, this is old school. We need to get William's parents, is they can give him a Christmas gift to subscribe. He can get a mail subscription to the Commercial Appeal.
Yeah. Yeah.
My grandmother did that one year for the Times Daily in North Alabama. Matt can appreciate that. Or probably they mail you a package with some old newspaper clippings. No, but on a serious, on a more serious note, no. That honestly, that's really the Google Sports, Yahoo Sports is really fantastic. I tell you what, and then I'm a giant fan of CBS Sportsline. Dennis Dodd and I've written some books. He's been on the show too. Rob, we've written books together. This guy, William, this guy is the insider. I mean, I don't know how in the world he's got ESP or something, and he can get into people's minds on things, and he just the best thing about Dennis and the CBS Sport, they're very, and Matt knows this too, they're very fair. They're not biased, and you don't get the, the one-sided, you hear about this all the time with cable television or whatever, but they do a great job.
Yeah. Dennis Dodd, William, that would be a great person for you to interview for a story. We have him on the show from time to time out of Kansas City, CBS's senior correspondent for college football. Man, I would be following him. I'd be reading what he puts out. And also, Bo, what about a young guy like William? Do y'all do internships with the Football Foundation, the National Football Foundation, Baseball Writers of America, where William could learn that way? I'm looking because we need to be getting the young journalist, instead of just splattering stuff against the wall and hoping it sticks, the people who do the research and do the due diligence and want to get it right instead of just trying to get it first.
Yep. Well, Matt's familiar with this too. We've got the U.S. Basketball Writers Association, the National Collegiate Baseball, and the Football Writers Association of America. They have student memberships, which are tremendous. You get the newsletter. You get to read some choice stories. They have a writing contest every year. In fact, William, if your dad had been a sports writer, they give the Volney Meese Award for a scholarship to a son or daughter of a sports writer every year. So that's a great deal. But no, there are just so many avenues to learn there. As you mentioned, Rob, the Football Foundation Irving has 2 internships, I think, every semester, and you really there's so many places to look. I think, Matt, correct me too if I'm wrong. I think there's a thing called sportswriters.com or jobsandsports.com, and we've found some placement for some friends and youngsters around this area with that too. They post about 50 jobs every day, so. If you don't mind traveling to Walla Walla, Washington, or somewhere like that, a nice summer job.
Yeah. Well, you're going to learn. I mean, the more, William, and I'll say this, writing and reading great writing is like lifting weights with your brain. It improves your vocabulary and what have you. Do they limit you on how much you can write? I watch Paul Feinbaum when he brings on a lot of young journalists, student writers, student reporters from SEC schools. We need to get you on there. You need to be on there with Paul Feinbaum. But are you limited on the number of words you have to put in a story, like no more than this, or is it just whatever needs to be done?
It's really about the least number of words you can use. I think I used that right. 500 words. It has to be. That's how many game story has to be at least. That's how. So I usually aim for that. But with longer stories, maybe like an SEC preview for men's basketball, I think I did an 800 to 1,000 words or something like that. So there's not really. I don't think there's a limit, but they may do a limit if it gets too long and there's too much information in there.
Yeah. Dave Cody just texted Bo Carter. Bo knows. And being that we have an Auburn journalist on here right now, and Bo Jackson, Bo Carter, who's the biggest Bo? Well, it's the Bo that's on our show. That's all I have to say. But William, look, I know you've got to get off here in a few minutes, in a couple of more minutes. When you're writing stories, do you realize the impact that you can make on somebody? Because we all remember, Matt, you remember it. Bo, you remember it. I do. Parents sending press clippings in the mail and writing letters and all. Do you ever think about that when you're writing a story? And I would say this, you got to be a truth broker. You can't worry about hurting somebody's feelings.
Yeah, I think about that, especially some other Auburn students that I may be making an impact on if they want to maybe write in the future or come to the Auburn Plainsman and see what we're writing and putting stories out and stuff like that. I do think about that. Yes, sir, I do.
Yeah, because everybody seems to think that, the people your age don't read and can't sit still for 3 hours to watch a football game, whatever like that, can't go to a football game if the Wi-Fi is not working and they can't text. When you go to a football game, do you stay the full 60?
I'm going to be honest. My friends call me out for some of the games that I didn't. It was like one of the game. I think it was Texas A&M versus Auburn. Auburn was up 10-3. There was a minute left. We had the ball. I left because I just saw it as a foregone conclusion, to be honest. So when I get it from my dad because he likes to beat the traffic. He's a Tennessee ball and traffic when we're ahead. So
but let me say this. I was thinking you were running down from the press box to get down to the sidelines to do post-game interviews. Do you do all the interviews and stuff after the games?
I do the interviews after the game when I'm reporting. I do the interviews after the game. Yes, sir.
Okay. So do you have to cover every game?
No, I do not. That's the
okay.
Sports reporter that right now being that on staff for the Auburn Plainsman.
Okay. I just, if you have a parting question, and we'll let you get back to class, but love having these, we're going to start trying to, get different young, true grit, aspiring journalists and match you up with different mentors on here. This is a lot of fun, but have any parting questions for Bo Carter or Matt Dean? I know Bo being the journalism professor, Bo knows.
Yeah, not any that I can think of, but I'll let you know if I have any in the future.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to hook y'all up. I think that'll be a lot of fun. And William, enjoy having you on here. Want to work with you because, Matt and Bo, William Halliday and that generation have forgotten more about how to use social media as a force multiplier than I think the three of us and Mildred over here to my right. No, even Delta. So, William, let's do this again here very soon. Thanks for taking time to join us. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Browne. Thank y'all.
All right. You bet. Delta knows more about social media than a lot of people, than my dad, I can tell you that. But, Bo, I thought that was cool. Have a catchy lead. And this just came in. Wow. Oh, my goodness. This is from, let's see. Oh, my goodness. You're not going to believe this. This is from Steven Tyler, vocalist. The parents of former UT defensive back John Hagee received cockroaches in the mail after he compared the Aggies to a bunch of cockroaches scattering. Not kidding. Wow. Steven Tyler just sent that from, hold on, where is Steven Tyler from? Bakersfield, California. Interesting. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. Look, I tell y'all both, that basketball game, that I did not know. And Matt, you mentioned you've coached some, that may be a halftime score. That's what's happening in college basketball. Lack of fundamentals. And Matt, how frustrated must these coaches be in today's world with performances like that?
Well, let's be honest. I mean, the two coaches are future Hall of Fame coaches. Mm-hmm. Bruce Pearl has recently been to a Final Four.
Yeah.
A lot of Bruce Pearl does, he sells kids on tempo. We're going to go up and down the court. We're going to score points. So that takes a little bit of a hit. But at the end of the day, the only thing that hurts in my mind, and I'll tell you this, Bo, I've never met an ugly win. As long as I'm the one that has 46 and not 43, ultimately I'm okay. I really am, because I think we learn a lot as coaches from subpar performances that we can take to elevate our team when it counts the most towards tournament play. So, I mean, obviously Tennessee lost a really tough game the other night. I will tell you this, though, Rob. I sneaky think Auburn's going to get Alabama tomorrow. I think Auburn may win their next 4 before they go into Kentucky. Sometimes you lose a couple games on the road, like they lost a tough one at A&M the other night. They played better. The Aggies are having a good year. They're 9-2 in the SEC. They lost the game to the Vols. It wouldn't shock me if Auburn won tomorrow. I'm just telling you right now.
I just got a text from one of our listeners who lives out in, what town is this? Houston, Texas, Clarence Beeks. He said, I know that Buzz Williams wears a 3-piece suit. Who else in America still does?
Not many, right, Bo? I was going
to say, Matt, you didn't ever wear that or whatever, too. But and Matt, to your point, too, both these guys coach great. They really know how to coach defense, too.
Yeah, hold that thought. You're right. I mean, they are both Hall of Fame coaches. Future. Yeah. We're going to talk about it right after this quick commercial break on Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Norman Jetmanson has joined us just now. Looks like he's in the witness protection program. One of those voices, I was not guilty of what I was charged with. It's like I'm talking, but anyway, hopefully we'll see him here in just a second. He may just be on the audio link. But Bo Carter, Matt Dean, Rob Browne, fun discussion, man. And I'm looking forward to talking to Norman about the documentary Sewanee 1899 Unrivaled. 6 years in the making. These things don't just happen overnight. Before we get to him, Bo, you were on a roll before the break, and as things go in live radio, live TV, Bo, let's bring Norman Jetmanson on here right now. Norman, it was great to see you last night out at Hyde Chapel at MUS, the showing of Sewanee 1899 Unrivaled. A cool story about college football. The game began November 6th, 1869. And I think my second grade teacher at PDS was there. She'd been there a while. But anyway, that was where it began, November 6th, 1869, Rutgers 6, Princeton 4. When football got into the South, 1891, 1892, it really caught on at Sewanee, and it was embraced. And in your documentary, you talk about, the Scotch-Irish culture of the South. They really liked it because it was violent. There was a lot of fighting, and it just caught on really well. And Matt, Bo, Norman Jetmanson from Birmingham, 6 years in the making, released it last spring. This is a cool story. And Norman, let's tell everybody about how they can see it, how they can obtain their own copies, but what went into the making of this incredible must-see documentary.
Thank you, Rob. As I tell everybody, if I'd known what I was getting into, I'd have never started it. It did take about 6 years, but my colleague David Cruz from Oxford, Mississippi, and I, when we started it, we said, well, 1899, there's going to be a lot of lore. We'll explore the lore. Maybe we'll learn a few things. What we found out was the truth was better than the lore. The story was much richer than we ever thought, much more complex. And Sewanee, as you mentioned, was an early and very successful football program in the South. And in 1899, if you remember, of course, it was only 34 years after the Civil War. And so the South was still devastated.
Yeah.
And football became kind of a proxy for battlefield glory because by then the Civil War generation is dying out. Their fathers and grandfathers had fought this war. And so football became a way for them to earn their own way to show their manhood. So it was a fascinating time in our country, in the South, and really fascinating to watch how football developed, a very violent sport back then. At the turn of the century, there were 18 or 19 deaths a year. It was a much different game than we know today.
You know, Bo and Matt, I don't know if you've seen this documentary yet, but it is, it's really, really it pulls you in. You cannot stop watching it. I think I heard Norman say last night, he goes, I've seen it over 50 times, and every time I watch it, I pick up on something new. And in the context of history, Matt, you know this being at Rhodes College, Sewanee Rhodes has to be what, 132-year-old rivalry? I mean, that's a lot of Rhodes sodas in that time.
You know, we have the Oracle Cup, was one of the biggest trophy games in the South, right?
And the Bells of St. Louis.
I was going to say, it was that kind of an introductory statement. So what Norman has done is amazing because, you know, being at Rhodes for 32 years, I was aware of that 1899 Sewanee team. There's also been some really good teams at Center College in Kentucky who are still in our league. I mean, the three teams that founded the old CAC back in the 60s are Sewanee, Rhodes, which is Southwestern at Memphis at the time, and Center College in Danville, Kentucky. And, you know, I was telling Bo with his Mississippi State ties, when I got the AD job, I have a ball in my office, 1934 Rhodes College, Southwestern at the time, beat Mississippi State. People are like, oh, that never happened. But to Norman's point, football in the South, well, we were regaining what we had lost, and there was a lot of small private liberal arts colleges that did really well for a period of time. A lot of history.
Yeah, Norman, that is Matt just touched on that. Small liberal arts colleges like Sewanee with less than 1,500 students up on the mountain. It's just really cool stuff. Yeah,
there were, at 1899, there were 326 students at Sewanee, all male. But at that time, they had an undergraduate school, a theology school, a law school, and a medical school. And since there were not many regulations back then, you could play if you were in law school or medical school. So Sewanee's team had some undergraduates, but a lot of them were seminarians, law students, and medical students. And it was typical. You could play at one college, and then if you went to graduate school at a different college, you could keep playing. So many players played 7-8 years. We have one
kind of like now with the virus here.
Full circle.
One guy on our team was 34 years old in 1899 when he played on the 1899 team.
Holy cow! Oh my goodness! I didn't see that last night. That is how many were on that original team? And there were there 11 on the field at the time then? Were there 11 on the field at the time, Norman, when that went back then? Because it started out in 1869. I'm sorry, you're 25 on yeah. Well, there were 25 on the field for each team in 1869. That's 50 players, I believe. In 1899, down to 11.
Well, you had 1899. You had 11 players. They played both offense and defense. Sewanee's team that year had a total of 21 players, but interestingly, when you played both offense and defense, you couldn't come out of the game and take a rest and go back in. So if you left the field of play, you were not allowed to return. So they basically stayed in there unless they were crippled or killed. They stayed in there with broken noses and broken teeth. And we say in our film, the star halfback and captain of the team in the Texas game that year got his head split wide open in the first half. He ran over. The coach put some plaster of Paris on it. He stayed in for that whole game and played the whole game the next day.
Wow.
And Matt, I know you know this, but in 1899, that was the first year that Sewanee and Southwestern, now Rhodes, ever played. And I believe they have the oldest rivalry south of the Mason-Dixon line in the country. So it's a storied rivalry and very important to Sewanee as well as to Rhodes.
Yeah, it is 100% correct. And I didn't realize that was the first matchup. I wonder if we covered the spread that day.
Yeah.
I don't know. Obviously, we lost that game, but I will tell you, it means so much to our alumni too. To be completely, they could not watch us play for 5 years, but if they went to 5 Oracle Cups, it's significant. It's a big game for us, and Sewanee as well. Absolutely.
Well, Bo, when you watch this documentary, we got to get you a copy of it. You can see, and they mention throughout the documentary about the Scotch-Irish culture in the South.
Yeah.
After the war was over in 1865, the South was just devastated economically, morally. Basically, the Southern male culture had been emasculated, and they latched on to football. And then couple that with Alabama's trip to the Rose Bowl in 1925, winning 20-19 on the train ride back from Los Angeles in the Rose Bowl. I think they made 8 stops, and everywhere they stopped, thousands of people were at the train stations with bands playing and flags waving and people hooting and hollering and banging on gongs and howling at the moon. It was a powerful statement. And Tony Barnhart is a prominent role in this documentary. And he said, the South, and Norman talks about it, the South looked at this as a way to express and manifest their manhood and get their culture back with college football. And they've never let go, have they?
No, and I was going to tell Norman, Sewanee is a original member of the SEC, laid the groundwork for Oklahoma and Texas in 2024. So,
Yeah.
No,
we hate to give away the ending, but we end our film by saying that as an original member of the SEC, Sewanee has the right to rejoin the conference. But my good friend Mark Webb, the former athletic director at Sewanee, said it ain't going to happen.
Normally they do like Vanderbilt, my alma mater, at the end of the year, just cash the check and keep going.
Well, a couple of years ago, Auburn contacted Mark Webb and said, we have a losing record against Sewanee and we want to rectify that. Will y'all come play us? And you can imagine the answer they got to that one.
This is really cool. I've never heard that. That is, and I think Auburn is, believe it or not, I think because from 1955 to 2008, Auburn did not lose to Vanderbilt. They only played them 14 times in that time span. They lost in 2008, like 14-13. I was there in Nashville. They lost in 2012, like 17-13 or something like that. And then they've won, a few times since then. But I think that Auburn Vanderbilt series, believe it or not, is at 500.
I think that's right. So,
wow, Norman, that would be a heck of a game. But I think the coolest thing, Norman, is the history and it's way bigger as much as it is about Sewanee. It's so much bigger, the story about college football, how it almost never got off the ground. Like you mentioned, in the early 1900s, there were 18, 19 players a year that were dying. And the governor of Georgia and the legislature convened in Atlanta and they were going to potentially get rid of football until the mother of the Georgia player who died on the field stood up and said that's not what he would have wanted. Talk about that, Norman.
Yeah, there was in 1897, there was a player, Richard Von Gammon at Georgia, who was killed on the field. And the Georgia legislature passed a law that banning football. And the only reason it was saved was Van Gammon's mother wrote the governor of Georgia and said, please don't sign that bill. My son would not want to be the reason that football was banned. And because of that, they didn't ban it. And then in 1905, Teddy Roosevelt held a meeting at the White House with Walter Camp and other college presidents, all in the Northeast, because the South wasn't really looked upon as an important football region at that time. And Roosevelt said, I love the game of football, but it's too violent and too deadly, and you're going to have to do something to clean it up. As a result of that, in 1906, the predecessor of the NCAA was formed, and forward passing was added to the game to make the game more exciting and less brutal. And Teddy Roosevelt literally saved college football.
Well, another cool thing, Matt and Bo, is the original football, and in the documentary you'll see what the original football, it looked like an Everlast medicine ball, didn't it, Norman? no tight,
because there was no
spiral.
passing. It was much closer to a rugby ball, and football came out of rugby, so you would think it was much more closer to a rugby match back then than what we see as football today.
Yeah, that part of it, and I thought that was amazing. And then the descendants that, of the original 21 players for Sewanee, and what they did, 5 games in 6 days. And what did they get total financially for that road trip? Was it, give me that figure again, the dollars then and what it would be worth in today's dollars?
Yeah. So, Bo, back then, the largest revenue for Sewanee came every year at the annual Sewanee Vanderbilt game on Thanksgiving Day. And from the 1890s to the 1920s, biggest game in the South all year was Sewanee Vanderbilt on Thanksgiving Day. But in 1899, the student manager couldn't come to terms with how to split the gate receipts. And so they didn't play Vanderbilt that year. And in order to make it up, Texas had played Sewanee in 1898 and lost 5-0. And they issued a rematch to Sewanee to come out to Austin again and offered him $750. And so the reason this road trip was constructed was that the manager, Luke Lee, realized they would eat up the whole $750 if they went out to Austin and back. So that's why he picked up games with Texas A&M, Tulane, LSU, and Ole Miss on the way back to pay for the trip.
Wow.
I was going to say too, if Sewanee were to play Auburn, they'd probably get a $500,000 game guarantee now.
Probably get $1 million.
Well,
it's like my friend at Jacksonville.
Yeah,
State
and
says, we'll let you pay us $400,000 to come down and knock you off there.
Yeah, they gave a big guarantee, but Mark Webb said I couldn't do that because I wouldn't have any players left at the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean that is a cool story. Norman, real quick, I want to say this. Y'all, most often we're going to see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out and help people with the expectation of getting nothing in return. Don't give to get, give to give. And Norman, speaking of gifts and giving, a great gift is this documentary. How can people get a copy, and how can they watch it on TV? Sewanee 1899 Unrivaled.
Thank you. We have a website, Sewanee1899.org. And if you go to that website, you can order either a DVD or a streaming version. We've been shown we're in the National Network for Public Televisions. We've been shown in 24 different states, and we're trying to get in all the others. So you can check your local PBS station. They may air it or be re-airing it. Alabama Public Television is re-airing us for the 4th time on March the 9th. Austin, Texas PBS is showing us on February 19th, and we don't have the entire schedule, but we know it's being shown in various stations. We've actually been shown in Alaska, in Minnesota, in New York, Los Angeles. So we've gotten around far beyond just the southeastern states.
Well, this is it's a great story.
Again, let me give that website.
Yeah.
Let me just say the website again is Swanee1899.org. And
right.
Matt, I'm going to send you, we had some artists do almost 15 original paintings because there were no photographs. We did a painting of the Swanee Southwestern game in 1899.
Wow.
I'm going to send you a print of that.
Oh, that's amazing, Norman. Amazing. Thank you.
We're going to get that. We've run out of time, guys. I'll make that happen. I'll connect everybody. Great show, everybody. Be back tomorrow. Thanks so much for listening. We are out of here.
Thank you very much.